Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. First use of the new camera. It arrived fine, the unpacking and everything was okay, and there was something in the box that I'd forgotten that even existed because it stopped working on my old one years ago, and that was the fact that there was a mains adapter that plugged in, so you could run it off the mains rather than battery, but it also charged the battery. Now I've been using a USB charger for the battery, and for my large long life battery, the big one, it takes 20 odd hours to charge up again once it gets low, whereas on the mains charger it just took a couple of hours. So that's a big difference. I'd forgotten I had that. So much so I had to look up where the hell you plug it in, because it's hidden behind a little compartment that flips up sort of thing. So anyway, so that was good. The battery that came with it didn't work. The camera put a message up saying I cannot communicate with this battery, so I think probably the battery wasn't much good and they bought a new one and they haven't bought the right one. So they obviously didn't test it, did they? Anyway, I've got 3 batteries, including the large long life one, which I use all the time. I only use the 2 smaller ones if this one runs out, and they give me about an hour each. They're not, you know, they wouldn't be any good for going out, you know, day trip or anything. So that was the only problem with it, was the battery, and that was easily overcome. It's nice to have a nice sharp picture again. So before we start today's video, I just need to, the Nelly Isla I don't need to film because I've already got pictures of that from a previous version, but I do need to get a nice shot of the Paphiopedilum bloom for my record. So all I do is film it, and then I'll create a still off of it and then process that in my photo editor. So that's that one done, and then we need to do the Dendrobium, which is over here, which is going to be difficult. It'll have my hand in it, won't it? Yeah, I can just about do it without my hand in it. Be able to crop that off. So that's that. And then today's video, we have the twin bowls out with the feed already mixed up. It's Cymbidium watering day. We haven't actually filmed this lot for some time, so I'll do what I usually do. I'll get each one over. It's on the turntable so we can spin it round, which means I can hold the camera and still go over the plants. And we'll have a look at each one, see how the spikes are developing. Those that didn't have spikes last time, have they started their spikes yet? And one of them is now in bloom that you haven't seen this time round, so we'll have a look at that. It'll be about the 4th or 5th one, I should think, given its position. Okay, so I'll shut down between each one, so there'll be lots of little clips fading in and out, and we'll make good use of the new camera. So let's get going. I'll practically have to go outside to get far enough away to film this. Now this one's been in bloom a long time. Some of the spikes are starting to go over. We've got one here that's completely gone, so we can remove that one. That's finished. Bang, pick that up later. And coming around here, we've got one here that hasn't even started to open yet. Another one, very weak one here, but nonetheless it's got 3 buds just starting to open. Most of these are open and doing okay. Yep, that's fine. And then coming around this side, we've got another cluster of spikes. This one's going over, so this will be the second one, but I'll wait till the blooms start to fall. Other spikes and another one here. So we've still got spikes to open. So as far as I'm concerned, this one's doing great. It's one I've had, one of the longest basically. We've still got the problem with the scale, but what I'm doing is every time I walk past the plant, I just remove a couple. They don't seem to be coming back, because quite honestly, if these were still very active, they'd be getting worse and worse. you know, now they're in the nice sheltered sort of cosy environment in here, they'd just be getting worse and worse, and they're not. So I think most of the ones that are left on the plant are just dead. So they're not spreading. They just don't look too clever. So yeah, I mean, there's some leaves still quite bad. But anyway, I mean, the problem is that it does stop me. I mean, this would be a smashing plant to take to our show in just over a week's time. But I can't take that into the show with scale on it. And I can't be bothered to do the effort that it would take to physically, manually remove every single scale on that plant. And at the end of the day, it would only need one of the judges to be in doubt that I'd removed them all, and I'd have to take it out and put it back in the car. So, you know, it's not worth it. But that's that one. That one's doing fine. It's just about got enough room to grow its new growths next year in the same pot. So we won't need to be repotting that one, which is good because that'll be hard work. The next time that gets repotted, I'm probably going to have to divide it, because I just probably couldn't get a pot big enough that would still be manageable, you know, to be able to lift it when it's soaking wet and manoeuvre it around and have somewhere to put it. It would just be getting too big. And the trouble is, Cymbidium divisions, you just got a job to get rid of them. Nobody wants them. They just take up so much space. Understandably so, when you see just how big that plant is. Anyway, that's that one. That's just a hybrid. It's got no name. I just call it the bronze one because it's a bronzy colour. Right, this next one is Pulmillo. Now this one put up quite a few new growths, and compared with the old growths, they're either not fully mature yet and possibly still to grow on, or the growths are weaker. It's difficult to tell which, but this one is not in spike yet. It might be. Looks like there might be one just starting, just there. But as far as I can tell, that's it. That is the only one. Now this bloomed its head off. Its last blooming, it was in bloom when I bought it, so I didn't create those spikes and grow them on. They were on it when I got it, and it was an awful lot of blooms for the size of the plant. So it may have, as the expression goes, bloomed its head off, and it may have a weaker blooming this year. Hardly any scale on that one. You have to bear in mind all these plants have got leaves intertwining and touching each other. So, you know, I can't believe the scale are spreading to any extent. I mean, this one was literally up against and tangled in amongst the one we've just looked at, which had quite a lot of scale. And this one's hardly got any. It's just the odd one here and there. But they're not active, they just rub off. So I'm quite happy that the scale aren't spreading. So they just rub off. Which probably means they're just bodies and not active. Anyway, so this one's put up new growths, and it looks like it has a single spike at the moment. It's a cascade one, so as that spike develops, it'll get staked part way so that it can still arch over, but not be a true cascade. They get in the way because it means you have to raise the pot up, and then the spike will hang down lower than the pot, which I can't accommodate that very well. Anyway, it's doing okay. And this one is Tiger Tail, and despite its appearance of being a huge plant, if you actually look at its height, it is actually a miniature or semi-miniature, and this bloomed well last year, and during the growing season it has grown a lot of new growths. Too many to count. It's just a mass of new growths everywhere. But at the moment, there's no sign of spikes. So it's still maturing those growths. Just checking. So as you can see, some of these new growths are still, they haven't even got a sign of a bulb yet. They're still growing. Up in here, these are quite youthful growths. These are not ready to bloom yet, they're still growing. So this is obviously a late bloomer as far as my season is concerned with the varieties I've got. But it's a lot of new growth, it's grown well. It's almost filled that pot. Again, what do I do with it? It's going to have to stay in there another growing season before I decide what to do. But it's almost filled that pot now. But a lot of the new growths have come up inside the ring of the outer bulbs, like these. So they're not all round the outside of the pot. There's quite a few are on the inner parts of the plant. So so far it's not... I mean, Cymbidiums will break a pot. You know, they'll find room, they'll push out room, and a plastic pot will just distort and possibly even crack. So they will find space. Anyway, it's doing okay, but no sign of spikes yet. Right, this one's Jamie Red, another one of the giants. You can tell how big they are height-wise. The trouble is some of them, they give you a false impression because they're in such a tall pot to get the depth, because they like deep roots, or they like a deep root run. But the leaves are up near the light. So it's a big one. Now this one had some spikes last time we looked, but it's now probably doubled up. If you look here, we've got 1, 2, 1 in the distance there, 3, 4, 5, there's one sticking up in there, yes, 6, 7, 8, nearly missed that one, 8, possibly more than that. But they're all, the good thing about this one is they're all roughly the same size, which indicates with all probability it's going to be a mass blooming. Because on some of the ones I've had, you've got a spike that's forming its buds and others are only just leaving the ground. Now, although that extends their flowering period, which is nice, it's nice to have the mass blooming like this one down here. So anyway, good number of buds on here, although they are in their infancy. It's going to be quite a while before we see actual blooms on this one. I would say, what are we now? Halfway through October, November, December. Could even be after Christmas. They do take a long time from here to actually opening blooms. So, but anyway, this one's doing well. It's put on some good growth and a nice lot of spikes. Good one. I've had this one a while as well. I've had this one long enough that it actually missed a year blooming. This didn't bloom last year. And I don't think it's going to bloom well this year, but it does have one spike and the blooms are now open, which we haven't actually had a look at since that happened. But this is one that's staggered. I've still got new growths here with no bulbs. They're still nowhere near mature. So hopefully they will produce some spikes later. But this was the forerunner, the early bird. That's opened up recently. Nice attractive blooms. The colours do actually fade a bit as time goes on. So they are a sort of deep, well, they're borderline orange. But this hybrid's name is yellow because that's the basic colour. That's all I can do with the hybrids, is I just add the colour on the end, just so that I know which one's which, basically. But as I said, I've got growths still pushing on. Many. There are lots of them, but they're not maturing. And believe it or not, that looks like a new growth. I don't think that's a spike. It's very pointed and very firm. So we've got another new growth at this time of year. And another one, looks like another one possibly in there. So this one grows all over the place. This is a spike here. So that's snuck up since we last looked, and so is that. So there are a couple more spikes coming. But there's also lots of new growth still to mature, and hopefully they will spike. So this one potentially is going to be in bloom over a very long period of time, but in dribs and drabs rather than a mass blooming. Nonetheless, it's a nice bright splash of colour. Nice blooms. Now this one's Cali Night, the one that has the almost black flowers with the very delicate paler edging. Looks like it's backlit. Now this was in bloom when I got it, so any blooms that come now are mine. Those that we had last year and enjoyed were produced by somebody else. But we grew the spikes on. It came, you know, with early forming spikes. We grew them on and produced the blooms. And it was a relatively small plant. But what's happened now is we've got quite a few new growths, and we have what is probably our first spike. And if you look at the size of the growth that the spike's coming out of, it's not fully mature yet, which means some of the others could actually spike soon. There's one here. That's a spike there. You won't be able to see that, it's just a tiny little point. There's another one here. So that's 3, and they hardly show. They've only just started. And don't make any comments. Those leaves were like that when I got it. It's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. No, it was actually like that when I got it. It is unsightly. But it is one of the oldest bulbs. I mean, eventually the bulbs will drop their leaves, so these will be gone. But they do spoil the look of it. But nonetheless, we have spikes starting. Last time we looked, I don't think we had any at all. But there's at least 3, possibly more. And the growths are still pushing on. They're still yet to fully mature. So it's good to see that the spikes are starting earlier than the bulbs mature. So and again, all the spikes are roughly the same size, so they should all bloom roughly the same time. So the growths have pushed on. There's quite a few of them. It's now a much larger plant than when I got it, and it's going to bloom, so pleased with that one. Right, we're getting on to the smaller stuff now. This is Showgirl. This had a problem. It wasn't happy with the media it was in, so it had to get repotted at not the best time, but nonetheless it seems to have done it the world of good, because the latest growth has really swollen up into a really good sized bulb. If you compare it with what went before, that is a massive bulb in comparison and has a nice spike. There's only going to be 1 spike on this, but the blooms are very attractive. And not a bad size, considering the plant itself is a genuine miniature. So I'm keeping my eye on the scale on this one because there's only a couple. So as I remove them, there'll come a point where in theory there should be none left, and then there shouldn't be any more if they really are not spreading. This one lives on a different shelf, so it's not touching the biggies that are sitting on the top shelf. So those wouldn't fit on the lower shelf. Anyway, got a nice spike on this one and a nice strong bulb. They're probably, unless the new growth comes out here, which is possible, there isn't really enough room in that pot for another bulb that size. So we will have to, we'll pot it on, because it hasn't too long been repotted, so it can just go in a bigger pot and a deeper pot. That's a very small pot, but there was a problem with the roots. There's no point in giving it loads and loads of media if it hasn't got loads of roots to fill that pot up. So it stayed in quite a small pot. You can see the roots must be growing now. Look, it's bent the pot. That's what I was saying. The Cymbidium roots and bulbs will distort pots. Anyway, doing okay, that one. Now this is Ice Flow, and it was a small division, so I wasn't expecting that much of it anyway. It actually came with a leafless back bulb and 2 bulbs and a spike. I've grown a new bulb on it, so it's got a new bulb. I don't think it's finished growing yet. I think it might swell up a bit more, because it's certainly not as big as the previous one, although it's a lot taller. But it has a spike just starting. So class that one as in spike. Now I worry about this one because I don't think, yeah, see, this pot's still wet. Just to tell you what's going on with the watering and feeding with these haven't been watered for 2 weeks. Yeah, that's a long time, and some of them are very dry, but this one's still wet. So I'm not actually going to water that. I'm going to leave that one. I can see that the below this surface here is wet, and I don't want to pour water on wet media, so we'll give it a chance to dry out a bit. And what it will do is whatever roots it's got, whatever growing root tips it's got, as it dries they will extend, searching for moisture, even at this time of year. So we'll leave that one for now. Bit dubious. Again, this is one of the ones that came from Mather's at Wisley that was not one of their own. I've got 3. One I'm probably about to throw away. This one, the latest growth, is dubious. Very dubious. And the last thing I want is a set of 3 orchids that have come in with a virus. Because of the way I water, these are one of the last ones to be watered, so they can only spread it amongst themselves. But nonetheless, I don't want it around. So yeah, a bit dubious with this one. It's only on the new growths. Anyway, I shall keep my eye on it. I'm not going to discard it yet. I'm just going to see what happens. But this is, it has all the hallmarks of the mosaic virus, or it does to me. Although it's different types of markings to what I've seen before, but it's some form of cell damage, but it's more streaky than anything I've seen before. I mean, it can't be light burn or anything this year. They didn't go outside. But oh well, I'll keep my eye on it. But it does have a spike starting anyway. Now this is one of the other ones of that set, and this has already dropped all its leaves on the old bulbs. It's already lost a new growth. The new growth that's left is rotting. So I'm not even going to consider keeping that. That's going in the bin. If you look down here, the base of the leaves, it's rotten. So it's going to go. So we won't even bother pouring water on that. That's going straight in the bin. So that's one down. I'll update my notes. Now this is Cymbidium copper. This one's a little bit special. I've had this one a while, but although I got it from Mather's, it wasn't part of the Mather's collection. This was out of David Mather's private collection, which on that tour, which was one of the early ones that I went on, he had some of his plants separate from all the rest of the nursery on a separate table, and he was selling some of those off. So I had this one. It is one of my favourites, and as you can see, it has a very nice spike coming on, so we should get some good blooms on that. It's not a huge number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably 6 or 7. On the latest growth has swollen up quite nicely. It's lost its leaves on a lot of the back bulbs. It still retains its leaves on the previous bulb to the one that's got the spike. But nonetheless, it hasn't got many leaves. These back bulbs are still very firm. That one's not. Well, it's all leaves. There's a tiny little bulb inside there. It's the oldest one, so that was, you know, obviously when it was a small division, and then it's grown on since then. When I repot that, which it's going to have to be done because there isn't really room in that pot because of the wasted space around here. So that needs lifting out, and I'm going to take the back 3 off, leaving this one, the one that's still got leaves on, and the latest one, so that there's still 3. But these will just be in the way, so we'll get rid of those and then pot it up, probably in the same size pot, possibly even in the same pot, but move it right back across so that the vacant space in the pot is likely to be where the new growth is going to come. But nonetheless, we've got a nice spike coming on that one. It's one of my favourites and one of the earliest ones I got. So I won't say it's doing great because it's not, but it's doing okay. And this is the last one. It's also the third one in that dubious set that I got at Wisley. But this one's okay. The difference, I don't know. It's got a name. It's actually Parnasse. It's got a French ring to it, so this probably originated from the Eric Young Foundation in Jersey. It's a strong plant. Wildlife. It's not doing any harm. Not at the moment, and it's not big enough to worry about. But this latest growth that I've grown is huge, so it's added a good amount of strength into the plant. But what we haven't got at the moment is, I was just going to say we haven't got a spike, but I think we might have down in there. Let's see if I can split that sheath. Yeah, I'm reasonably certain that's the start of a spike down there. You might not actually be able to see that. You can just see the point, so it's just literally just started in the last couple of days, I expect. But the latest bulb is a good strong one. Behind it, it has 4 bulbs, even though the oldest is a small one. So this would have been grown on from a seedling rather than a division. So the blooming that it had when I got it was probably its first blooming. That was on this bulb, and then I've grown this bulb and it looks like it's going to have another spike. And obviously that bulb has added a lot of strength into the plant. It would be nice to get 2 new growths next time round instead of 1, but nonetheless this one's doing okay. Although it's a large plant, these leaves are tall. Because it's not in a pot that's anywhere near as tall as the previous one where we were measuring up against the light, but these leaves are very long. Now let's let Winey out. Come on then. Not very warm out there today. Yes, so that's the last one. It does look like a spike is starting. So I've now got to try and remember which ones have got spikes on, but I don't really have to, do I? I can just play the video clips back as I put them together into a single video for you good people to see. So that's an update on all the Cymbidiums. Most are doing okay. One's going in the bin. That, out of the number that I've got, doesn't actually worry me because that just has not grown well all along. And there was one a while back that was almost confident it had a virus. It was kept separate and everything. That was also thrown out. So there we go. Anyway, new camera's working fine, and the new functionality that I'd forgotten I had with the mains charger, the only problem with it is you plug it into the camera, which then charges the battery. Whereas the way I've been used to charging the battery is I remove the battery and put it on the USB charger, but it takes a ridiculous amount of time. The only thing I can vaguely remember is when the old camera used to work, charging it up with the mains charger, the DC in connection, it used to charge the batteries up full, but they didn't seem to hold their charge as well. It was as though it was a fast charge that didn't, the batteries didn't really like that. They'd prefer the slow trickle charge. Anyway, I can monitor that as time goes on. But this battery was fully charged up. When it's fully charged, the number of minutes it reads is around the 400 mark. It's down to what it says, 244 at the moment. But it had dropped down an amount without the camera even being turned on. So it's as though that type of charge doesn't hold. Anyway, it works, that's the main thing. Right, see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.